Hello, I've been away this week taking part in a sailing competition, and in the post when I got back was this watercolour palette. A couple of weeks ago, the Paul Rubens company contacted me and asked if I'd review this paint set made by Mei Liang, which is a sister brand of Paul Rubens. So I received this for free. But I'm just going to take a look at that today. The colours on the back. Comes in this really nice turquoise tin with a thumb ring on the back. This is their 36 set of vivid colours. So the colours have all got names and numbers, but there's no pigment information or lightfast information. I looked on Amazon and this set is about £20 on Amazon UK, and it's had nearly 600 reviews with 4.6 stars for its rating. So it's got these individual pans which look like they are split into threes, and they're just inside a fairly flimsy plastic insert, but looks like it'll do the job. So they're a little tiny bit bigger than a standard half pan. They're a little bit shallower. I'm just seeing if I can, yeah, they can fit in a normal paint palette. So I'll go ahead and unwrap all of these and then we'll swatch them out and see what they're like. Those came off easily enough. One thing I've noticed is that the tin, the paints themselves with the labelling on, seem to have newer packaging. So they are branded Mei Liang and they have newer paint names on them, whereas the box and the swatch sheet, they've got the Pretty Excellent brand name on them, and they've got older paint names. So when I was writing out the swatch sheets of my own, I copied the names off the box, and then when I went to open them, quite a few of the names have been updated. So for example, tree green is now sap green, yellow sienna is now raw sienna, burned brown is now sepia. They do all have the same numbers though, so I could figure out which was which. I just noticed on the box though, I said that there wasn't any light fast information, and in this tiny little bit down here it has 3 stars for absolutely permanent, 2 stars for moderately durable, and 1 star for fugitive. So looking at this box information, we've got an assortment of 3 and 2 stars here. Three and 2 stars. Yep, so it looks like there are no fugitive paints in this set, and they're a cross between moderately durable and absolutely permanent. So I'll put those stars on my swatch sheet as well. The online information that I can find for this paint set says that they're high quality gum arabic, highly pigmented, they mix well with no chalky or grainy feeling, come in a sturdy metal case, and they're non-toxic, eco-friendly paint materials. And they're advertised as being for students and beginners. I'm just going to use Canson XL cellulose paper for swatching on, and although a watercolour brush does come in the set, I'll give it a try later, but I'm going to swatch with my Silver Black Velvet number 8 brush. Okay, I've just added Sharpie lines in so I can see how opaque they are. I'm not pre-wetting these colours at all. Let me pop them here so you can just see how they're re-wetting. They're doing pretty well, actually. When I bought my first watercolours as an adult a couple of years ago, I bought professional quality. So I've not used student grade. I've not used student grade paints. Though I did dig out an old Dale Rowney student watercolour paint set, so I'll do a comparison with those later on. Okay, I'll speed through these ones now. I'm just changing how I swatch slightly from these top few. So I'm putting solid paint on at the top, and then I'm just cleaning my brush and putting water on for the bottom half, just to see how they flow. Okay, so my initial impressions with these paints is really quite positive. I'm really pleasantly surprised with them. They're beautifully vivid and very pigmented paints. They re-wet super easily, and you can see they're not too opaque or chalky. They do have this slight, let me try and find an example. I don't know if it'll pick up in the video, but there is a slight kind of graininess about them. Almost like a granulation, but just, I don't know, there is a slight difference in looking at them between professional watercolours. But it's really not, it's not hugely noticeable. Let me show you the other sheet. I forgot to do the line, a Sharpie line, to look at the opacity, so I just added an extra row on here. So a few are more opaque than others, I should expect anyway. Yellow ochre is more opaque than most of the others. The raw sienna was the only one that didn't feel particularly pigmented, but all the others were really quite strong. I think you might be able to see better what I'm talking about, this kind of granulation. I don't know how to describe it, but in these browns you can see it the most. It's kind of like a a separation going on. So I'm just going to try mixing some now, see how they get on in a colour wheel. And then I'll take a look at a couple of the colours compared to the De La Rowney student set that I've got. One thing I'll just mention before I forget, it was fine using this palette, though it does feel slightly flimsy with this plastic insert to hold the pans in. But I would definitely hang on to this plastic layer if I was going to store it or travel with it, because I think it needs those to hold the pans in. The tin closes really nicely, by the way. Yeah, I think the pans could fall out relatively easily, and the plastic insert doesn't kind of completely lie flat. So I'm using the lemon yellow. I'll use the permanent rose. This is like my standard cool triad. And I'm using the cerulean blue hue. These are actually mixing really nicely. Oops, that's got some of the green in. You can see they flow quite nicely as well. Yeah, they mix really well. You can see a little bit of this kind of graininess that I was talking about though. There's a bit of kind of texture going on. Let's try another one with some warmer colours. This is the cadmium yellow hue, and vermilion and ultramarine. So you get a really nice, a good orange mixture there, and decent olive there. Made a bit of a mess here, but you wouldn't expect a good purple from a warm blue and a warm red anyway, because there's so much yellow in it. So I'll just try mixing a cool red and a warm blue, where we'd expect to get better purples from. Yeah, that's quite nice. So I just tipped the paper by accident there, so we've got kind of the colours merging more. But just as a comparison, these are the core watercolour primary triads that I did the other day. And actually, just for colour mixing and how they pan out, these Mei Liang paints are comparing quite well. They really are. And here are the Rosa Gallery triads that I did. I'm just going to swatch out some of the De La Rowney student paints that I've got now. I don't think the De La Rowney's re-wet as well as the Mei Liang. I'll just do a small colour mixing triad here with the De La Rowney's. This is the De La Rowney set I'm using, by the way. I keep it for friends' kids to play with when they come over. From an initial perspective, I'd say that the Mei Liang paints are every bit as nice, if not nicer, than the De La Rowney student paints. So I think I'm going to do some quick loose watercolour floral paintings now, similar to some that I did in a video a while back, just to see how they do. So I've just pulled out a couple of books that I'm going to use as reference. I'll probably do something like this. So while the flower paintings are drying, I thought I'd just see how these paints lift. So I've got a quite stiff rosemary ivory short flat, and I'm just going to scrub away a strip of paint from each of the colours. So those lifted better than I expected, actually. I mean, there's some staining for most of them. But you can definitely get some lift. So here's the paint set now that I've used it a bit. Mixing palette worked fine, and I was pretty happy with all the colours that I used. So a little bit of yellow, a few of the reds, a couple of the blues, and then use the greens and the yellow ochre and the black. And yeah, found it an enjoyable experience. Here are a couple of the paintings that I did, and here are the two that I did for comparison's sake. So on the left is the Roman Szmal, and on the right is the Mei Liang. For the Roman Szmal, I used Aquarius Black in the flower centres, which is heavily granulating paint. So that's some of the texture that you can see there, which the Mei Liang doesn't have. But to be honest, I really didn't find, for this kind of level of basic painting, didn't really find much difference in the experience of them re-wetting and laying down. And if you look at the green leaves where it's more transparent, that's the Roman Szmal greens. And I was actually really impressed with the Mei Liang ones. I've got a nice transparency on the thin washes, and I liked how the pigment dries. So yeah, for this kind of level of painting, I think the Mei Liangs are absolutely lovely. And I mean, these are pretty basic paintings. You can see a little bit of this kind of texture that I'm talking about, but it's not really it's not super noticeable. I don't think it detracts from the paintings particularly. So yeah, I'd say that for what's marketed as a student quality paint, it's actually really good, and I'd heartily recommend it as a student paint. And I guess depending on what you're painting, I mean, I haven't layered up washes or done large areas of wash, and I'm imagining that artist quality, you'll see some difference there. But yeah, I'm very pleasantly surprised with how good these paints are. I think the only shame really is the kind of the cheap plastic inlay. So as ever, thanks ever so much for watching. I hope that was useful if you're on the lookout for a really good student grade paint. Bye!